new study shows that artificial sweeteners can damage your brain, that just one diet soda a week can cause problems. Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Monti from the Marcus Institute of Integrative Health at Thomas Jefferson University. Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, and many others have increasingly been shown to have negative health consequences.
Artificial sweeteners could put users at risk for diabetes.
It's used to sweeten hundreds of foods, including desserts and protein bars and sodas. Well, now researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder have found that the food additive may have adverse effects on the brain.
When they first came out decades ago, people were really excited.
Sugar, now it's equal.
A sweet taste, no calories, no weight gain, people thought. So this was really great, except that's really not the case. And in fact, we now know that they can even be associated with weight gain.
New warning about no-calorie artificial sweeteners. Turns out they may actually make you gain weight.
Along with a lot of other problems, even increase cancer risk.
The commonly used artificial sweetener aspartame is being labeled a possible carcinogen by the cancer research arm of the World Health Organization.
And more recently, we're finding that they can affect the brain, accelerate cognitive decline, and even be a contributing factor to dementia.
A new study has found that aspartame, saccharin, and other artificial sweeteners may pose negative health outcomes for the human brain.
This was a longitudinal study. So longitudinal studies look at large numbers of individuals over decades. We looked at our highest tier, 191 milligrams of sweetener. What does that mean? That's about 1 can of diet pop. And then you look at 66 milligrams and then the lowest tier. But the higher the tier that you used, the greater cognitive decline that you saw.
And that's definitely not the effect people want when they're grabbing that diet soda to have a little pick-me-up during the day. Now, the mechanism by which these chemicals affect the brain in such a negative, deleterious way is still being worked out. But clearly there's some form of neuroinflammation and oxidative stress that's going on, and this is leading to the cognitive decline and setup for dementia. One of the interesting things about the study is that the cognitive decline was happening younger than cognitive decline often occurs. People in their late 50s and 60s were really beginning to show the cognitive decline from these artificial sweeteners. It was really worrisome that people were showing the cognitive decline so early. I mean, the study didn't enroll people until they were 55, but it really begs the question, at any age, does the cognitive decline process start from these artificial sweeteners? That's what needs to be studied next. And here's the thing, these sweeteners are in products you might not even be thinking about, such as protein powders, energy drinks, sweetened waters. They're ubiquitous. One of the things these artificial sweeteners does is affect the gut microbiome. And this then has direct effects on glycemic control, meaning how we deal with sugars. So even though there's no sugar in the artificial sweetener, it can still affect sugar metabolism over time, particularly with frequent consumption. And in fact, we know that pregnant mothers, if they drink an excessive amount of, say, diet sodas or intake these artificial sweeteners in large amounts, that their children have an increased risk of obesity over time. Not right when they're born, but in the years that follow.
Canadian researchers tracked the diets of more than 3,000 pregnant women. The moms who drank artificially sweetened beverages every day were more likely to have larger babies than moms who consumed none of those drinks. And their children were at double the risk of being overweight by their first birthday.
So I often get the question, which is worse, having the regular soda or the diet soda? And they're both terrible for different reasons. If it's diet, there's all the problems we just said. And if it's the regular kind with the high fructose corn syrup, it's very glycemic, causes big blood sugar spikes, plus there's other toxic byproducts that people are concerned about. And that combination makes it very unhealthy for that set of reasons. And so both are injurious to the brain and to the other organs of the body. So many of my patients are asking, I really like that treat that has that artificial sweetener, so can I have it sometimes, not at all? While we don't know exactly, there is data to show that some of the negative effects of these substances, that just one diet soda a week can cause problems. So we should really start thinking about these artificial sweeteners like other things we know are bad for us or toxic to the brain, such as alcohol. There really isn't a recommended amount, and we should be looking for substitutes. The good news is there's several out there, and in the last few years, really great products with natural non-caloric or low-caloric sweeteners. For example, stevia and allulose have a good amount of data behind them. They don't seem to have any of the effects that these artificial sweeteners have. Another new one on the field is monk fruit. Has a little bit less data behind it, but the data there is pretty encouraging. When you decide to use one of the newer natural non-caloric sweeteners, such as stevia or allulose, the data so far shows that you don't get the changes in metabolism and glucose control that we're seeing from the artificial non-caloric sweeteners. And when it comes to the natural ones that so far have very good safety profiles, it's a matter of taste. So stevia is very sweet, but many people think it has a little bit of a bitter aftertaste and goes better with certain types of beverages than, say, coffee, where the combined bitters don't always taste great. Whereas something like allulose tastes very close to regular sugar and is great for things like coffee and other types of things. So it's really a matter of preference and trying different sweeteners for different foods and beverages. One of the things the literature talks about with allulose is that it actually, over time, helps to balance glycemic metabolism and even helps with cravings. And I have to say, some of my patients with a sweet tooth have noticed that when they're using allulose instead of refined sugar and the other artificial sweeteners, that they can get that sweet tooth under control a lot easier, and that's a good thing. In the future, we'll take an even deeper dive into soda and related products. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. We look at every one. I'm Dr. Dan Monti. Until next time, be well.